Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion. I know when we repeat a story several times, there's always the chance that someone will think we're crying wolf, wolf, until people won't believe us. This particular story, however, is so critically important, and it is coming. The only question is when, that we feel like we have to keep you updated. This news report today, U.S. preparing forces for possible conflict with Iran. The U.S. does not want to see confrontation with Iran, but is still preparing its military for that possibility. America's top uniformed officer said Thursday, "We've looked to do all we can to ensure that conflict doesn't break out there, while at the same time preparing forces as we do for many contingencies that we understand might occur." Admiral Mike Mullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said during an appearance at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, many experts assess that any military engagement with Iran by America would most likely rely on air and naval power. They don't anticipate putting a lot of forces on the ground in case this should happen. But here's what I want you to hear. Mullen was even more definitive when asked to assess whether Tehran was seeking to acquire nuclear weapons. This has been a big debate, as you know. Some people say yes, some people say no, some people say, well, it'll be a long time if they are. Listen to the rest of what he has to say. I believe that they're on a path that has a strategic intent to develop nuclear weapons and have been for some time. Now, the reason that's so important is because the U.S. had pretty well accepted that Iran was not at this time trying to develop a nuclear weapon. Well, that assessment has now been changed. Mullen's words were echoed by a report in the New York Times this week that U.S. President Barack Obama's top advisors say they no longer believe the much-disputed National Intelligence Estimate from 2007, which assessed that Iranian scientists ended all work on designing a nuclear warhead in 2003. It had long been contended and believed by many that the effort to obtain a nuclear weapon by Iran that program ceased in 2003, and Iran claimed that was true. However, now then, the top military officer with the United States of America is saying, we don't believe that anymore. One of the biggest reasons they don't is because it is revealed within the last short time that Iran had a secret nuclear installation, which has now been confirmed, the one at Qom. And they have been keeping this secret for 7 or 8 years, while all the time claiming transparency. So this story is a very important story. It continues on to say, I think the Obama administration now fully acknowledges that Iran intends to conduct a nuclear weapons capability program. Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren told the Jerusalem Post Wednesday, we agree with the administration on the intent of the Iranian regime to acquire nuclear military capability. On the other hand, he added, striking Iran, that also has a very, very destabilizing outcome. What I worry about in most of the cases are the unintended consequences. Now, let me remind all of you out there, there is a prophecy in the Bible that a war is coming from that part of the world, from the Euphrates area part of the world. The Euphrates River is within 50 miles or so of the coast, of the boundary of Iran. It runs right down through Iraq. There is a prophecy that a war is coming from that part of the world. And talk about unintended consequences. The prophecy states that war will result in the killing of 1/3 of the human race. And when we realize the magnitude of that prophecy and of that consequence, unintended consequences is certainly an understatement at best. So this important story, is there war coming? Yes, there is. I'm very sorry to say. It's prophesied. It cannot be altered. It will happen. The only question is when. This article tells us today that the United States is preparing for just that contingency. A recent report said they could have a nuclear weapon within the next 2 months. We'll wait and see.